Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
This summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're going to recap preseason week 3. That's all the San Francisco 49ers take home the victory 30-23 over the Los Angeles Chargers. And this game was, might I say, rather boring for about 3.5 quarters. There was a lot of punts, a lot of kicks, and a lot of nothing happening out there at Levi Stadium, but they pushed through, and unfortunately we have some good, some bad, and some more moody because Jake Moody continues to steal the wrong headlines for the San Francisco 49ers. But going to get into everything that transpired on and off the field, including some injury updates, who played, who didn't play, and why that actually matters, and then get into the game itself and highlighting some good plays, some bad plays, and what may be one of the most important developments of the entire offseason, that being Nicholas Martin's last 2 preseason games, because it was awesome. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let's dive into preseason week 3. Niners win over the Los Angeles Chargers 30-23 at Levi Stadium. If it matters to you, they finished 2-1 in the preseason, so getting back-to-back victories over the Raiders and the Chargers. They rounded things out at home last night. Again, a rather boring game, but it did have some highlights. You saw Trey Lance come back for the first time, I think, since being traded to the Dallas Cowboys, now with the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh came back. Jerry Rice was in town. Patrick Willis was also there. Frank Gore was at Levi Stadium. We saw Navarro Bowman on the sideline for the Chargers, now one of their coaches. An overall great kind of atmospheric game when it came to nostalgia for Niner fans. So many great moments with those players and coaches. Terique Owens caught a touchdown pass, shades of his father. You heard Guy Haberman on the call, Owens, and hearkening back to one of T.O.'s biggest moments in his career. Jerry Rice's kid played for the Chargers, Brendan Rice. So a lot of good feelings coming out of last night's game when it talked about, or when it came to the nostalgia factor. However, that quickly evaporates when you get back to the reality of the situation for San Francisco and the injuries, because last night after the game, we got some news via Kyle Shanahan stating that a wide receiver, Jacob Cowing, will miss around, could be less, could be more, than 6 weeks after re-injuring his hamstring during practice earlier in the week. So not ideal for Cowing. I believe it looks like he will be placed on injured reserve after roster cutdown day on, I believe it is Tuesday. So that is something to kind of keep an eye out for as roster cutdowns continue. I don't love having to maybe reserve a IR return for Cowing. He really isn't the caliber player you want to utilize a return for. You want to save those for, dare I say, more important players, but it seems like he will get one of the return designations when his time off the IR is done. Then Jacob Robinson, a standout UDFA cornerback out of Kentucky, a guy that we weren't really sure if he'd make the roster or not, weren't really sure if he'd be a practice squad guy, but somebody you wanted to keep around in the room. I guess he broke his forearm late into the game, and I believe he is going to be an IR candidate as well. Not sure if that's season-ending or he may get what Cowing gets, a designation to return, but not ideal for Robinson, who is having a really good training camp in preseason. Probably wouldn't have made the roster outright, but otherwise kind of bummer to end his first preseason with San Francisco. Rookies Mike Williams and Upton Stout are hopefully going to be back as early as Monday's practice. I believe they have workouts today to kind of see where they're at in their recoveries. Michael has the knee injury. Stout has the calf. So their first and third round picks could be back as early as Monday, but time will tell. Those guys both, though, should be back by week 1. I don't think there's concerns of whether their status will be active or inactive. They should be back, and we should get our first glimpse of both of them in actual Niner uniforms in the games against Seattle, week 1 of the regular season. So some good news there. Then that brings us to Jauan Jennings, because he has become this, maybe outside of the injuries or someone included in that, the biggest distraction on the roster. Now, he's not making a fuss on social media, maybe outside of yesterday, with his Instagram post kind of saying you mess with the wrong dude, which don't know why that was. Don't know if that is the contract stuff. Maybe it's a girlfriend thing. We don't know. I'm not going to speculate here, but Kyle Shanahan did kind of look annoyed, and which he often does. He doesn't like talking to the media, but Shanahan did seem like he didn't want to discuss Jauan Jennings, his injury, his contract stuff after the game last night, whether it was he was tired or thought it wasn't worth his time. But he did say that Jauan, and he's expecting Jauan to be back by week 1 against the Seahawks. But again, looked annoyed. Seemed like he didn't want to be bothered by discussing Jauan's injury/contract stuff. So I do think Jauan is injured. I do think it is serious. Obviously, you heard it plenty of times on the show, but as the days progress, it does seem like Jauan is not going to be out there, which Jauan currently holds zero leverage over himself. He had it earlier in the offseason, but despite the injuries they have to the receiver room, Jauan's leverage is out the door. It's gone. It just feels like that he has no guaranteed money on his book, basically, on his contract. San Francisco, while yes, could use Jauan Jennings, obviously they don't have their full bore receivers out there right now, and you want to have him out there, but if they find him, his paycheck goes to zero pretty quickly. So it does seem that Jauan's leverage is gone, and this next week and a half will determine whether we see him against Seattle week 1, which you hope that can kind of come to fruition, but I wouldn't pay him if he actually is injured. But if he's not injured, you hope to have JJ back out there against Seattle, because you have Pearsall, you have Kittle, you have McCaffrey. Those are kind of your big, three-headed monster you want to rely on to begin the season. Having Jauan out there certainly gives you not just more depth, but also makes you relax a little bit more knowing you have arguably your most proven receiver on the roster, not named Brandon Ayuk, out there against the Seahawks. So those are the injury updates from yesterday's game. And let's dive into the game itself, because again, this game was so freaking boring for the first 3-ish quarters. And it's not often you beg for a Jake Moody field goal attempt, but I was begging anything. Please give me Jake Moody. Give me something to kind of grip my teeth into or whatever, or put my hands around and grasp onto for this game. And there really wasn't much to begin the game. Punts back and forth. Niners had, I think, 3 4-and-outs or 4 3-and-outs in a row, and the same thing goes for the Chargers. Nothing was happening. But there was something noticeable during that ugly first, half or so of play from San Francisco. And while, yes, you can only take away from what you see in which players are actually on the field making plays in the final preseason game, it's also equally as notable as to who is not playing in the preseason finale. Obviously, you don't see Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Bosa, and so on and so forth. Players that are locked in for roster spots, and guys are going to be starters for this team this year. Whereas we did not see last night Tatum Bethune at the linebacker spot. There's no indication he was hurt. He practiced the entire week. And if that tells you anything, Tatum Bethune, to me, has locked up the third linebacker spot for their base defense alongside Fred Warner and D. Winters. I think it's a pretty obvious conclusion to make. As we saw in the preseason, Bethune has blossomed in his second season with San Francisco, a former 7th-round pick out of Florida State. You saw Luke Gifford, you saw Curtis Robinson, you saw Chaz Surratt, you saw other guys fighting to make the roster, veteran guys, rookies like Nicholas Martin. Bethune, notably, not out there. A good indication that, one, he's making the roster, but two, he's probably going to start for San Francisco, at least at the early portion of the season. He was tremendous against the Raiders and against the Broncos to begin the preseason, so a nice sign for a linebacker room that I could honestly say I might have the most confidence in on the defense walking into the season. You obviously love Fred. You love what Dave Winters brings to the table. But if Bethune can continue to ascend up the depth chart, or at least make plays like he was doing in preseason, then you add in Nick Martin and Curtis Robinson and a veteran guy like Luke Gifford or somebody else in that room, the linebacker spot really, that's a solid room for San Francisco. So really impressed there, and a notable thing that Bethune was not out there with the rest of the guys fighting for a roster spot. Other players, though, that did happen to play last night, one of them being Luke Gifford. It, again, kind of goes hand in hand with the Bethune conversation of, Gifford was taking all the starting snaps next to Bethune in the preseason. Now, all of a sudden, Gifford is fighting for his job on the roster, and Bethune seemingly has won that job. The other guy being Ji'Ayir Brown. I'm mixed as to what to take away from that, because I didn't think Brown was terrible last night. Wasn't good by any means. But I think not having Malik Mustafa and Richie Grant may have played a factor into how many safeties they utilized out there. Jason Pinnock did not play last night too, so there is reason to believe that Brown and Siegel are still vying for that free safety spot. I don't really know how they're leaning, because last night we did get some glimpses as to why Marquis Siegel may struggle, especially in coverage, which we haven't seen much in the preseason thus far. So worth noting that Gifford and Ji'Ayir Brown both played last night. Khalil Young says here, but first off, I want to say what's up to Niners Throwback. They say, good afternoon, faithful. Press, hit, and like and subscribe. You are correct. Like and subscribe to the show. Rob D says, bang, bang, Niner gang. He also says, Jake Moody is not an NFL kicker. We will get to Jake Moody in a few minutes, because I got a lot to say about Jake Moody. Not good. Not good. Strawberry's in here. Khalil Young's in here. Salute right back to you. And Big Brick 84. What's up? How you doing? Hope you're having a great Sunday evening. And let's get back to Khalil Young's comment, because it's in regards to who played and who didn't play last night. And they say, Sterling, I found it odd Renardo Green was out there last night, especially with the question marks with the depth in our receiver or in our cornerback room. I would say the only reason why we saw Renardo Green last night was, one, yes, because there was questions of depth as to who can play the outside cornerback spot. You don't want to overload somebody out there like Dallas Flowers or like Darrell Luter Jr. But on top of that, a probably more important piece to this, the fact is, last night was his preseason debut, and just being out there with the other defense, other 10 guys, with some starters maybe on the field. He hasn't practiced, or he hasn't played in about 2.5 weeks, so that was probably more than anything getting him comfortable back in the defense and playing football again. So I wouldn't look too much into that. He is going to start alongside Lenore and likely Upton Stout to begin the season. So I think, if anything, it was simply just we have to get our number 2 outside cornerback some reps before we have a really tough week 1 game against Seattle to begin this season. But I wouldn't look too much into that. I don't think it means much, only just getting him reps to kind of loosen him up for a season opener against a really tough division rival. Moving along in my notes, really, we have to start with Jake Moody. And I know I spent 20 minutes talking about the last week's game, about Jake Moody, 5 for 6, game-tying, game-winning kicks. Could this be the turn of the corner? Could this be Jake Moody breaking out of his turtle shell and becoming a great kicker? No. No, it wasn't. It doesn't shock me at all, because we also said with myself and Dre Area Sports that it doesn't matter how good Jake is in week 1, 2, 3, 4, preseason game, week 1, 2, or 3, there is always going to be this hesitation, this worry. Whenever he jogs onto the football field, and I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He makes a big kick. Maybe it's a mental hurdle he got over last week against the Raiders, but that was not the case last night. I get it. Maybe there was some wind, but as a kicker, that is your job to navigate that. And I don't want to make it seem like kicking is easy, because it's not easy. Kicking is very hard. That said, Jake Moody sucks. Jake Moody sucks so freaking bad. You cannot trot Jake Moody out there. This year, week 1, week 2, week 3, it's enough to game plan as an offense. It is enough to game plan as a defense. The one thing you should not need to take into account is the mental fortitude of your kicker. You can find guys bagging groceries at Costco, at Winco, at Vaughn's, at Safeway. You can find guys off the street that can make 40-plus yard field goals. And look, it's not easy. I get that. But Brandon Aubrey, maybe the best kicker in the entire league right now, was not drafted. You can find these guys anywhere, and I get it. Jake being a former third-round pick, he has the physical skill set. He has the leg to make 59, 60-yard kicks. All that can happen. And yes, there is questions as to the availability of better kickers. All of that should be taken into account, but as a fan of this team, knowing that games are going to be a lot closer this year than, say, 2022 and 2023, the odds you are boat racing teams 42-10, 35-14 are going to be slimmer than previous seasons. Thus, you're going to be playing games that are 17-20, 24-23, 27-24, that are 1 or 2 point games, and you gotta tell Jake Moody, hey, go out there and make game-winning, game-tying kicks. And while the stats may defend Jake in some form, he's like nearly perfect on PATs in his career. It's not the fact that Jake can't be a good kicker. Jake has the makeup to be a good kicker. But we have to stop treating Jake Moody like he's a developmental prospect. You don't get that. You don't have the opportunity to stash kickers for years and years and years. Like the Niners, they drafted Trey Lance, who played for the Chargers last night, as a developmental prospect, hoping that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever Jed York said after they picked him, he'd become a great quarterback, right? And unfortunately for kickers, you don't have that ability to sit and stash guys and hope they grow. You have to be good from day one as a kicker. And I know Jake's rookie season was better than last year. Obviously, he was hurt for a short period of time, but even then, Jake was still a little shaky his first season with San Francisco. And knowing you're going to play closer games this year, you cannot go out there and let Jake doom or gloom your season and be the reason you are, say, 10-7 or 11-6 compared to, 8-9, 7-10. Jake Moody cannot be the reason this team misses the playoffs. And right now, they're putting themselves in a position because of the roster retooling, the cutting of cost, the reallocation of money, that Jake Moody is going to be a major reason they win or lose games this year. And any kicker does that. Any kicker plays a large role into where a team can go, right? Having a good kicker is a large reason good teams are great and win close games. However, go back to 2019. And I'm not even asking for a Robbie Gould style kicker back. That's a high expectation for a guy. But you have Greg Joseph there, who, again, Greg Joseph has not been great in his entire career. However, Jake Moody has never been good in his entire career. He's too inconsistent. You have no idea where each kick will go. I at least have some comfortability that, hey, at least Greg Joseph can make a kick inside the 40 consistently. Whereas maybe Jake can make the kick from 55 yards. Okay, I'd rather be able to score points when drives stall inside the 30 and the 40 consistently compared to not really knowing if you're going to score points at all if the offense stalls. And we saw last year, the offense stalled a ton. You have to be able to put points on the board when the offense stalls in the red zone, and this team just can't do it because of Jake Moody. And the way Shanahan talked last night of like, well, I thought he was good last week. You cannot go week to week with a kicker. That is a very dangerous game to play. It's not like you lost your starting quarterback and you're just kind of floating along trying to see what's happening with the backups. You don't have a backup kicker. He's your starting kicker. You don't treat quarterbacks that way. You don't treat offensive linemen that way. You don't treat defensive linemen that way, linebackers that way. You don't treat, and they have not treated any other positional group on the roster like they are treating Jake Moody at kicker. I get it. The prospects of what he could do are there. But Jake Moody has missed kicks against the Cleveland Browns a couple years ago in 2023, his rookie season. He missed a kick against the Vikings the very next week. And last night, he misses one of his kicks. And then a couple kicks later, which he makes one after that, so good for him. But then he shanks the kickoff, which, to Jake's credit, maybe he was trying something, it didn't work out, and they can explain that later. But then Jake refuses to talk to the media after the game. It's like, buddy, like, you don't have the right to refuse to talk to the media. Like, you are maybe one of the most scrutinized players on the roster. Right now, one of the just most boneheaded mistakes this regime has made, and the fan base last night is booing him because they've had enough. They've had enough of what Jake Moody brings to the table, which is wild inconsistencies. You have no idea what he brings to the table because right now it's either in the uprights, wide right, wide left, a bad kickoff, a good kickoff, and the worst thing you can be as a kicker is inconsistent. It is the worst thing you can be because if, let's say it's Niners Seattle week 1, and right now it seems like the way Kyle's talking about it, it is going to take Jake to cost this team a couple of games. Maybe it's a pivotal win. Maybe it's a game that the offense barely squeaks out because Jake missed a field goal or two and they kind of hung on. But it's like, how long of a leash does Jake Moody deserve? He's never proven anything. Okay, the first year, it was okay. There were some bumps. But it's like, really?
Are you ready to dairy-free your mind? This summer, melt away your dairy-free expectations with So Delicious dairy-free frozen desserts. Enjoy mind-blowing flavors like salted caramel cluster, chocolate cookies and cream, cookie dough, and more. For over 35 years, So Delicious has been cranking up the flavor with show-stopping products that are 100% dairy-free, certified vegan by Vegan Action, and are so unbelievably creamy, your taste buds will do a double take. Dairy-free your mind. Visit SoDeliciousDairyFree.com.
Like, how long do you have to see? How much more do you have to look at Jake Moody and evaluate him? You already fired the special teams coordinator, Brian Schneider, who was the reason you drafted Jake Moody. You got rid of the punter. You got rid of the long snapper. The issues are still persisting for Jake Moody. There's still inconsistencies. Like, that's the problem, where why would you gut the entire room, give Jake one more opportunity, watch him somewhat struggle throughout the preseason, and then be like, we'll ride it out. You don't have the luxury this year of riding things out. And when the fan base boos you in your own place, when Shanahan is side-eyeing you after you shank the kickoff and give the opposing team, in this case, in a close game at the time, the ball at the 40-yard line, which anytime you do that, every position is valuable. You cannot give Sam Darnold in Seattle's offense, you can't give Matthew Stafford, if he's healthy, in the Rams offense the ball at the 45-yard line. You cannot do that. Like, that is, like, mistake number one. It's, cardinal sin right there of a kicker. That's why it's so confusing as to why they continue to trot him out there. I get it. The options that we may view as better, they may not think so. But you can't tell me Greg Joseph, a 31-year-old veteran kicker who has 7 times the kick on his resume that Moody has, couldn't at least be more consistent inside the 35-yard line. Like, I don't care about 55-yard kicks. That's awesome. It's cool if you have it. That's the reason why they drafted Moody in the first place, but I don't need that. I trust this offense to be able to get into the red zone at a fairly high rate this year. They may not score a lot of points in once they get there, but the reason why is you have Christian McCaffrey, you have George Kittle, you have Ricky Pearsall. Hopefully you have Ayuk back and DeMarcus Robinson and Jennings at one point in time together. That offense should be able to get into the red zone at a pretty high rate. If they don't score, then Jake can't even hit chip shot field goals at a consistent clip. And that's my biggest complaint. Is like, okay, if it's late in the game and it's, 17-20, or say it's 23-17, San Francisco's trailing, there's no promise that Jake can make you a field goal to make it 20-23 and give you another shot with 6 minutes left in the game if you have 3 timeouts. It sets the entire offensive strategy behind because he is not good at his job. And then Brant Boyer last night, which Clay Young says Boyer wanted to strangle him. Jake Moody, after shanking that kickoff, walked right by Brant Boyer. They didn't make eye contact. It was like they bumped shoulders, and it was like, don't even look at me right now. And I made this analogy last night on 95.7 The Game on Overtime, so check that out. But it's like they're treating Jake Moody like a child, that they tried the easy way with Brian Schneider. They're trying the hard way now with Brant Boyer, but at some point, like, enough's enough, and unlike a child, you can sever that cord with a kicker. It's okay. Like, this, I get it, you drafted him, but Brant Boyer didn't pick him. Brian Schneider, you can gut the entire room, but not Jake Moody. You don't have to have a highly drafted kicker to have a good one. You don't have to stick things out. It's baffling more than anything that either it's stubbornness of Kyle or John, whoever it is in that room, to not want to cut Jake because of pride and ego, or they're willing to rely on Jake to, in some sort of way, hold the key of wins and losses and the outcome of the year, which Jake Moody is not the kicker to do that to. And I know there have been some people that have said, well, Kaimi Fairbairn was in Washington with Kyle and Michael Shanahan, and they cut him. Now he's great. Yeah, take that risk. San Francisco right now is a retooling team in need of a consistent kicker. Make a trade, 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, and Laurie Matthews says here perfectly, they drafted Mitch Wisnowski in the 4th round, and they cut him during the offseason. Why should Jake Moody be any different? They got rid of Trey Lance, and who they traded away 3 first-round draft picks for and a 3rd-round draft pick for 2 seasons later. What's the holdout with Jake Moody? What does he have over them that is just we don't know? And that to me is the baffling thing, because the fan base can see it. Clearly, the coaching staff, Saleh, Boyer, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, the guys making decisions out there, saw there was problems on special teams. So you get rid of the coach that picked him, the guys around him, but not him, even though he continues to struggle. It doesn't make sense. It's just baffling. It's right now one of the most head-scratching decisions on the roster, in which I'm on board with cutting Wisnowski and Pepper and firing Schneider and retooling the defense. I'm all on board for that. You can see the vision of the roster, but I cannot see the vision of keeping Jake Moody another year. If you play 3 of your first 5 games are against the NFC West, if he costs you one of those games, that's a problem. Now, my assumption is San Francisco should be able to beat the Saints pretty easily. The Jaguars are going to be a better team this year, but shouldn't be on San Francisco's level just yet. So that is a 2 wins I will give them in their first 5 games. But the Cardinals are going to be tough. They swept you last year. I get it, you were hurt, but they swept you last year. The Seahawks beat you once in your own place, and they might have gotten better, especially on defense this year, and you're going to play in Seattle in week 1, and then even if Matthew Stafford misses the first couple games, he should be back by week 5. You cannot let Jake Moody be a reason you lose those 3 games against the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Seahawks. And Jake already missed a kick last year against the Rams at SoFi Stadium, which may have cost you some roundabout way of a playoff spot last year, or at least got you closer. Just not great. It's baffling. It's borderline idiotic. And look, if I'm wrong about Jake Moody, then my God, I'll be wrong about Jake Moody. And I'm okay about being this adamant of he has to go. This is it. Where you gave him grace, 5 for 6 against the Raiders. Man, like, he's over the hump. He's not. Clearly, the mental fortitude is not there for him. If he misses 1 kick, it's over. And it is Shank City. And right now, the only city I want to be in is Rack City. And it's not Rack City. It's Shank City. You don't want to live in Shank City ever if you're a kicker. And he's living there permanently. He's a permanent residence in Shank City. Wide left, wide right, kickoffs. It doesn't matter. They have to find a different kicker. If Jake Moody is determining the outcome of your games, that is malpractice by the San Francisco 49ers. Now's probably a good time to stop and remind you that if you want to see Jake Moody live and in person this year, you can use this promo code right here on your screen, 49ers Access, 49 ERS, ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. We are merely 2 weeks away from the NFL kicking off. Niners, Seahawks, finally back. Real football that actually matters. Real reps, real outcomes, and the quest for 6. Are we still calling it that? I don't love that, but anyways, the quest for 6 is back on this season. Go see the Niners in person or go see a concert. Baseball is coming into the playoffs pretty soon. Go use the promo code SeatGeek.com or use promo code 49ers Access there at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Okay, let's pause the Jake Moody conversation because I have a feeling it's going to happen a lot this season. And let's start things off with the defense last night. Because, to me, there was one clear, awesome silver lining, a standout above everybody else, above the rest. That was Nick Martin, 3rd-round pick, which he really struggled the first game against the Broncos, that being his first game back post-ACL injury. But the last 2 weeks, Nicholas Martin has been tremendous. He looks like a beast. There are still questions about his coverage skills, but in regards to playing at the line of scrimmage, his speed, the tackling has improved a ton. He looks incredible. This is a reason why it's okay to be patient, and it's a reason why I pointed out to you guys and others out there listening that week 1 against the Broncos, yes, was a bad debut, but there's a reason for that. His first game back from the ACL at Oklahoma State, so there was some reasons to kind of give him some leash. But Nicholas Martin was awesome last night, flying around. It felt like every defensive snap for San Francisco last night, he was in my notes somewhere. The burst was off the charts. He was making TFL after TFL, tackle for loss after tackle for loss. He forced the fumble with his helmet. There is clear growth every single week from Nicholas Martin. There was a pass in the flat he broke up to late in the game. Even the kick return last night where he gets the guy inside the 20 and stops him at like the 18-yard line. He was just tremendous all over the field last night. He had a great run stop in kind of a dual run stop with Evan Anderson early in the game. Nicholas Martin, just off the charts, tremendous last night. He deserves every bit of praise that he gets. He'll make the roster. I'm not sure if he'll start to begin the year over Bethune or over someone like Gifford, but you can see there's a reason why San Francisco wanted to get him in, and maybe he was a reach, and we shall see as time progresses, but Nicholas Martin right now was a clear highlight the last 2 preseason games. There was very evident signs of growth, and his ascension to me, he's a player right now, albeit it's still very early in his career, that you can see him taking off as the season progresses. Like, he may be linebacker 5 to begin the year, but by the end of the year, he's linebacker 3 or 4. And it's like, wow, the quick growth he's made in 2 games to me, it's awesome to see, but also it's really, it almost kind of vindicates of like, hey, like we know that first game was rough against the Broncos, but now you see what Kyle and John Lynch have seen at the tape at Oklahoma State, which I think the consensus was we like Nicholas Martin, but 3rd round seems pretty rich. However, right now, the Nicholas Martin pick looks pretty good. Again, there's still some issues with the coverage and everything, but when it comes to run defense and just being the overall electric linebacker, the tackling has improved so much. He always was in the right place. It just felt like he was moving too fast, and he's kind of slowed things down the last 2 weeks, and you've seen it on display against the Raiders and Broncos, or the Raiders and Chargers. So Nicholas Martin, 2 thumbs up from me. What a great breakout last night. Everywhere. TFLs, PBUs. He was thumping dudes. He was wreaking havoc on that offense last night against the Chargers. Forced a fumble, couple of run stops. He was a clear highlight of the day. And the reason why I believe the linebacker core is a lot better than they have been in previous years. And then Curtis Robinson, too, a guy that I've gone back and forth as to whether I think he makes the roster or not. I wasn't exactly sure where he slid in, how many linebackers they'll keep, but I think last night, if anything, has kind of made me believe that Luke Gifford's job may be in maybe some jeopardy. But if they keep 6, then Curtis Robinson is certainly in there. His pick-6 last night was big. If funny enough, it was in front of Devarro Bowman, who has the historic pick at the stick, which was awesome to see. And for a player like Robinson, who was in line to be a starter last year before he tore his ACL in practice, just a terrible outcome last year. Now you see kind of the growth, and you see kind of the I guess you can somewhat say the retribution after missing all of last season. Curtis Robinson was awesome last night against the Chargers. Big pick-6. Also last night, he had 2 tackles on his books, 1 solo and whatnot, but he also had a big pass defense, and then of course a touchdown pass. And for a team that really values getting the football back, they didn't get any in that first game, but the last 2 games they have been like, this team has been getting 3 takeaways last night, 2 fumble recoveries, I believe, or 1 fumble recovery, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception, and then a couple against the Raiders too. You see this defense can be a big key into how many games this team can win. Them being, or Robinson's INT touchdown pick-6 being the 7-point difference in the game. So big outcome from Robinson, big performance last night from him. And I think he has, if he already hadn't, kind of solidified himself as a roster spot this year. I don't think he's practice squad eligible, so it is, I think, roster spot or bust for him. I think last night kind of pushed guys like Chasserot and Jalen Graham off the roster completely, which the linebacker room's kind of done now. Warner, Winters, Bethune, Martin, Gifford, maybe, then Robinson. Like, those are your 6 guys going into the year, which that's a pretty good unit that the Niners are going to field this year. And you can even replace Surratt and Gifford, and you don't lose too much there. So the linebacker room is a healthy unit, where last year it was not whatsoever. But the growth of Bethune, the drafting of Martin, and the signing of Gifford certainly helped. And then the growth of Robinson being back, again, has made the linebacker room maybe one of the best on the entire defense. Moving along down my notes here, even Chasserot, for a guy that, again, I think is a practice squad player, he's a special teamer. But they get the fumble last night. He recovers it. again, it's how can you find your place on the roster? Surratt, I think, as Niner Media says here, if he can be a practice squad guy, yeah, that's a heck of a practice squad guy to have. Salah brought him in this offseason being with the Jets last year, and you can clearly see that his value to help the unit on special teams is something Brant Boyer may value over a player like Luke Gifford or somebody else. So a pretty big night for San Francisco's linebackers as a whole. The depth there, I think, is tremendous. Let's go on to the secondary next, because was I the only one that really liked what Darrell Luter Jr. did last night? I know it sounds somewhat sacrilegious because he's been so bad in the preseason this year, but Trey Brown is done for the year. That's a massive loss, albeit not like a big name loss, but a key depth guy done for the season, one of your outside cornerback depth pieces. He probably was going to be your fourth outside cornerback next to Green, Lenore, and Dallas Flowers. You lose him. Ji'Ayir Robinson breaks his forearm last night. He's probably done for the season or a large chunk of time. That kind of leaves Darrell Luter Jr. Kind of a place to make the roster, which he may now make it by default. And I know there's been some bums, but last night Darrell Luter Jr. looked really good, or at least looked better than he has in the first two preseason games. I thought Luter Jr. was good against the run. Beal set the edge. Luter came up and cleaned things up behind him. That was great to see. And then also in punt coverage, he made an amazing tackle last night too. So there was some really good things to see from Darrell Luter Jr. that you hadn't seen the last couple of weeks, maybe the last couple of years. He's a guy that, has kind of fought to kind of not be injured. And unfortunately, right now, that room is injured a lot. You lose Trey Brown, Robinson. Luter was terrible against Denver and terrible against the Raiders, whereas last night you saw glimpses of that player they liked out of South Alabama. So, maybe there is an uptick for Darrell Luter Jr. walking into roster cutdown day, and mixed with the injuries, maybe he is more in line to keep on or stay on the roster after this one, which, what do you take from the preseason finale? I don't know, but if anything, Darrell Luter Jr., I think, has put himself in a better spot, if anything. That said, this team needs to keep Siran Neal. This team, Siran Neal, or Siran Neal, whatever his name is, he was awesome last night. He's been really good throughout the entire preseason. He is a key special team player I think deserves to make the roster. Now, there's certainly a conversation to have in regards to can he make it past waivers and whatnot, but
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, streaming now only on Netflix.
I believe that Siran Neal belongs on this team. Too many times we have seen him have excellent physical coverage plays to force incompletions, not let the receivers out of their cuts, get a chance at the football. He's locking down, albeit, third-string receivers, but you can only go against who they're giving you. And Siran Neal may not be a guy that plays much outside cornerback this year unless some guys go down, but even in those small glimpses he's had against receivers on the outside, he's looked phenomenal. There was a play last night, too, that, I believe it was Gibson and Bill Jr. get pressure. They throw it downfield, and Neal has great coverage, and it, again, forces his incompletion. So I like the way Siran Neal plays defense. It's physical. Sometimes that can lead to penalties, but overall, I think Siran Neal had an excellent game last night and belongs on the roster over a player, like Darrell Luter Jr. In my opinion. I think he gives you more than Darrell Luter Jr., a veteran player. But as time goes on, you never know. But, Siran Neal, to me, is a guy that belongs on the roster for more ways than one. I don't know if that's safety or if that's a cornerback job for him, but really impressed by him the last couple preseason games. Niner Media says a good special team or two. I would agree. You talk about improving that unit. Siran Neal's a big guy in that room to hopefully help those guys out. And then Fish and Chips says Neal looks like a pro football defensive back. You're right. And you have seen less inconsistencies from him compared to Darrell Luter Jr. So a lot to like. And then Rob D says Neal had a good locker room interview last night too. He said that Neal says he looks at the opposing player as someone trying to steal food from his children, and that's a good way to look at it. You love the mentality from a player like Siran Neal that he has never really had a solidified job on a team. He's always fought for his positions, and he kind of plays the same way. He's always got his hands, his legs. He's always touching someone's hips, trying to get those guys turned around. So that to me is a physicality San Francisco covets on defense, but also on special teams. Let's move things back to the safety room a little further because a lot is happening. A lot is happening in the safety spot because do you keep 5 guys? Do you keep 4 guys? What's the plan there? I thought Jalen Mahoney last night, I think he's a shoo-in to be on the practice squad again this year. He saw last year because of injury an elevation to the active roster, so I think that's kind of the same track he'll be on this year. But he had an excellent tackle for loss to force a 3rd and 8 last night after Burgeon muffed the punt. So talk about a kind of persistent mindset. Mahoney had that last night when Burgeon muffs the punt, and you're like, oh crap, the Chargers are going to score here. Mahoney gets a big TFL, forces a 3rd and 8 incompletion. So there was some good stuff to see there. And then a rather mixed bag from Marquise Siegel, which everything he has done through 2 preseason games has been awesome, right? The tackling, the run defense, the aggression, where Ji'Ayir Brown lacks in his mechanics to tackle, his technique, Ji'Ayir Brown does not wrap up at all. It is, I'm Deshaun Goldson, lowering the helmet, I'm going to lay out. But he whiffs a lot. And it cost him last night a lot. Siegel doesn't really have that. But where Siegel does struggle, similar to Ji'Ayir Brown, is in coverage. And I think we haven't seen much of that during the preseason. But I think that is an area that could hurt San Francisco early on in the season. He's young, he'll grow, but right now, with who he is, Siegel just, there's, whether it be being flat-footed, whether it be whatever it is, like it just, like the big play last night I'm kind of hinting towards is the touchdown pass to Arondé Gradson from the Chargers. I think it was Taylor Heineke of the Chargers. Siegel's in coverage towards the right sideline, the furthest one from the TV broadcast. And he was kind of caught flat-footed. The guy gets behind him. He's a smaller safety, so he can't get up very high. Brown tries to come over in coverage to help. He's too late, can't get there. I know Tim Ryan on the broadcast blamed Ji'Ayir Brown, but that was on Siegel. And so I do think that may lean to them maybe keeping Ji'Ayir Brown and Marquise Siegel, but having not seen Richie Grant the entire preseason, I don't really know where he's at, but he has starting experience, so there are some questions to be answered there. I didn't think it was a great game from Siegel in regards to coverage, but again, the run defense skills are there. He's young, he'll grow, and I think that with time. However, I thought Ji'Ayir Brown was better last night than he had been in the last 2 preseason games as well. I don't blame him for the touchdown. I think that was on Marquise Siegel, as I already said. But also, there was one big-ish punt return by the Chargers in which Ji'Ayir Brown saves the punt touchdown, which got called back for holding, so there is that. But I thought he didn't know that on the play. He was trying to make a play on the ball carrier, and he got free of the defender, the blocker, and then made the tackle. So I thought that was a good job by Ji'Ayir Brown. However, again, the tackling is a major concern from him. He doesn't wrap up. He just goes for the hard hit and then misses a lot. It's an issue during run defense. It was a problem last year too. he will be in the spot. But instead of getting your arms around somebody and bringing them to the ground, it is a lower your helmet, lower your shoulder, I want to punish you style of defense, which inherently isn't a bad thing. But when you're Ji'Ayir Brown and you're not great in coverage and then you can't tackle, that's when you lose your job. So I think for Ji'Ayir Brown, he's got to get back in the lab and kind of retrain himself or improve the tackling technique, because it was not great last night. It wasn't great last year. So definitely some up and down things from Ji'Ayir Brown, but I do think a better day from Ji'Ayir Brown than we've seen in the last couple weeks. Lori Matthews asks here, any update on when Mustafa might return? My assumption is Mustafa will be on the PUP list to begin the year. I believe that means he's got to be out at least until week 4 or 5. So I believe that you're not going to see him at least until week 5 against the Rams. I think he'll probably be back in that stretch against the Buccaneers and the Texans week 6 and 7. Those games, to me, make the most sense for him. I believe San Francisco will play things very slow with him. So you're not going to see Mustafa for about a month to begin the year. But after that, I think that's a good window for him to come back once he's completely healed from his injury. He has been doing some sideline stuff. He has been doing some rehab stuff. So he's close. But to begin the year, PUP list, 4 weeks out, back week 5, 6, 7. Those are kind of the window for him to return. Big Brick 84 says in the YouTube chat, Pinnock and Stout are a lock at safety. Siegel already has a $2 million guaranteed contract, so he's in. Lucas is the 4 safety. Mustafa won't be back until week 5 or 6. Don't forget, Stout is this team's assumed nickel cornerback. Siegel right now is the assumed free safety. Chase Lucas is the backup nickel cornerback, but they're going to keep Pinnock as your starting free safety, whether it is Siegel or Ji'Ayir Brown as your free safety. And then you're going to have Richie Grant as the 4th guy in the room, which, again, may lead to Sran Neal being the 5th kind of hybrid safety cornerback. Or maybe Mahoney makes the roster. It depends on money and who they value. But Stout is going to be this team's nickelback, not safety. So there is some depth in the room behind those guys. But still. Let's look at the rest of my notes. I see many of you out there talking about Junior Burgeon. And am I the only person, or am I one of the folks that are kind of heartbroken for him, right? He really has not been bad at being a return man throughout training camp, and wasn't bad until last night in the preseason. I get it. He hasn't given you much as a wide receiver, and maybe you were hoping there would be some quick growth. And really, Junior Burgeon's job, unfortunately, I think, was lost by no fault of his own until last night, right? With Jennings being injured, Robinson being suspended, Cowan getting hurt, and Watkins getting hurt, and Ayuk being out, that's 5 guys ahead of him that, if those guys are healthy or not suspended, you don't have to go out and trade for Skyy Moore, and Burgeon may keep a job, because he's been overall fine as a return man, which, sure, you always want better or more, but Burgeon has been, he's been there. I haven't hated it. But they go and get Skyy Moore because Jacob Cowing is out, Jordan Watkins is out, and Skyy Moore can give you more of the gadget play, be a more consistent, albeit not great wide receiver for you, at least give you some NFL caliber snaps at receiver, which Burgeon can't do right now, or maybe ever. And so you don't mind letting Burgeon go once you have Skyy Moore in the room, and really Skyy Moore may not last until Cowan comes back. So it's more about kind of duct taping the room together for the time being once your other receivers get back. But the minute he muffed that punt, it was just like, oh, it's over. That was the bow breaking for him. His NFL, dreams of making the roster out of camp in his rookie season ended right then and there, and he knew it. You can tell he knew it, which sucked because he's a guy that was an excellent return man last year in college football, but just right now, because of the roster construction of San Francisco and the injuries, just it doesn't have a place currently. That may change in the next couple of years or so, whatever, but just not right now. Junior Burgeon is going to get cut, unfortunately, which he wasn't going to do much for you anyways. But yeah, it sucks to watch young guys fail in a big moment in which he probably wasn't going to make the roster anyways, even if he doesn't muff the kick, but still, you're like, oh, what a bummer. What a freaking bummer. But 7th round pick, he's a luxury, whatever. It's not a big deal. Speaking of Skyy Moore, I wasn't overly impressed, as Skyy Moore doesn't know the offense yet, albeit Shanahan did say he's picked up a lot in his short time with the team. I also wasn't expecting a lot because it's Skyy Moore, and he's not been good. He's been hurt a lot with Kansas City. Is a guy that was supposed to be a big gadget guy for them, kind of replaced Mecole Hardman and never did. I did like to see him on end arounds. I did like to see him utilizing his speed, which was nice. I think that's kind of going to be his role for the time being until they can get Cowing and the other guys back. But maybe I'm being too harsh. Like, if people were thinking, and I don't think anybody was thinking, oh, Skyy Moore is the next big thing in San Francisco. Clearly he's not. Clearly he is he is a Band-Aid to the situation currently. And I think that if he sticks on the roster for 18 weeks, it'll be likely as a punt return, kick return guy, and that's it. Again, injuries can change things, but he's brought in to be kind of the receiver 4 in the meantime behind Pearsall, Gage, maybe Robbie Chosen Anderson. I don't know who else I'm forgetting because everyone else is injured, but Skyy Moore is basically a, hey, you are good enough. You're not great, you're not good, but you're good enough. Punt return, kick return, and if we have to have you out there, we'll do it kind of player. So, but right now he is simply just a replacement for Jacob Cowing until Cowing comes back. But he was fine. He didn't fumble. That's good. And he gave you a little bit of something there. I think he almost broke one last night. Just one guy got him down, but other than that, it was a fine debut for what he knew of the offense. Did drop that one pass that was kind of out in front of him. Maybe the route wasn't great, but by Tuesday's cut down day, it'll be interesting to see how the roster kind of shakes itself out because there is so many ways San Francisco can go if you are Kyle or John. Like, it just... there's so many guys that can get cut, make the roster. And speaking of those guys, I thought that last night, I thought Robert Beal Jr. had granted against third stringers, an excellent performance last night. He hasn't played the entire preseason. He's a guy who's been hurt a lot. He's going to be the last edge rusher to make the roster if he actually does. But I thought... while there was some inconsistencies in setting the edge, the bootleg to Jalen Reagor by Trey Lance, he didn't set it at all. He bit so hard on it. It was like, oh my God, dude. He broke his jaw. He bit so hard on the cheese. But he got a lot of pressures last night, forced a couple incompletions, had a handful of nice run stops, set the edge later in the game, bounced back. I was very pleased with Robert Beal Jr. I don't love him. I think if he makes the roster, he's the last guy to do so, but I'd prefer he be a practice squad player, however. I was pleased by him, but I still, with how loaded San Francisco is with bodies on the defensive line, I don't think he'll make the roster, but still highlighting a positive performance from a player that hasn't played much throughout the preseason. Then Sebastian Valdez, again, flashed a lot. He is certainly in the running for the last defensive tackle job. However, I was very happy with the way Jordan Elliott played last night. I thought Elliott, for about 2 or 3 drives, was stopping everything. He was getting pressure consistently on the interior, in which Elliott is not a pass rusher at all. He's a run defender. I thought last night he was awesome against the pass, and even against the run too. He was doing a lot, moving guys around, taking on double teams. And I was pleased from a veteran player that last year had a really down year. I'm surprised they brought him back. But this year, a guy that may be starting alongside CJ West, Kalia Davis, Alfred Collins, who knows. I thought it was a good day, and I know there was some questions as to whether he makes the roster. I think last night kind of solidified that for him. It was a good day from him. Evan Anderson, too. He recovered a fumble from Nick Martin, so that's a big plus for him, getting the ball back, and had a couple of run stops last night, too. So some veteran second-year players on the defensive tackle room stepping up. However, there are still some questions in that room. Who starts? You don't really know. Is West going to be back by week 1? You don't really trust anybody in that room yet, even if you like their potential. So there are some questions. Yet, I thought Alfred Collins last night was doing something pretty well. Although, again, he's not going to be a big pass rush guy, and there still was some inconsistencies with the pad level. I kind of honed in on him a little more than I usually do because he's been pretty bad the last 2 preseason games, but I liked what I saw from Alfred Collins. He had a big run stop early in the game, paired with Elliott, and then I thought, just being the big body, the big mass he is, I have liked the growth of him. He, like Nick Martin, albeit they're on different wavelengths currently, he has shown some growth in the reps he's taken. So, again, play more. The more he plays, the better he'll hopefully get. So, Alfred Collins, Evan Anderson, Jordan Elliott, good days. Good days from San Francisco's defensive line room. However, the run defense was pretty piss poor last night. There was some glimpses of things, and obviously, once you get the All-22 out and you can see the entire game from a different angle, you can see where the lanes were and the holes were and everything and tell you a better story. But right now, having not seen that just yet, the Niners run defense, in the very little time they've been out there consistently, only 82 yards last night, but that was some quarterback stuff late in the game. Raheem Sanders was really kind of gashing them early. Things kind of dialed back as the game went on. They started passing more as the game went on, but I've had, and I still have some questions about where San Francisco's run defense is. I know where it can be, but right now, some questions about that walking into week 1. But getting healthy, Nick Bosa, Bryce Huff, having the starters out there will certainly change some things for them. Okay, let's quickly go through the offense, and I will try to do this very fast because there's a lot, but there's not much to get into here. What's up, the 49ers 2025? Hope you're having a great Sunday afternoon. But let's get into the quarterbacks really fast. Carter Bradley sucks. Shouldn't make the roster. Tanner Mordecai isn't great, but he's better than Carter Bradley. He should make the roster. Mordecai, to me, last night was way better than Carter Bradley. I know Bradley got hurt, but nepotism be damned. I'm sorry. I'm not impressed. I believe the Eagles did cut Kyle McCord from Syracuse. I would look into that. I believe that Kyle McCord could be a darn good quarterback in this system. However, Kyle probably doesn't want to have Brock, Mack, and then a rookie back there, especially knowing that one of those guys are going to be your quarterback 3 throughout the year, but also one of those guys are probably going to be your quarterback 2 if Matt can't go week 1 against Seattle. So, but just Kyle McCord, I think, is a darn good quarterback that fits this system extremely well. I would love to have Kyle McCord be one of Brock Purdy's backups, but Tanner Mordecai clearly needs to be on the roster over Carter Bradley. Now, I think that's a practice squad thing, not an actual 53-man roster spot, but Carter Bradley stinks, like really bad. The quarterback ratings were other spectrum for both those guys. Last night for Carter Bradley, he had a 94.6 rating. Tanner Mordecai had a 124.8. And throughout the entire preseason, Mordecai, for as bad as he was against the Broncos, has been a heck of a lot better than Carter Bradley. Mordecai, to me, is...
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
For as not good as he is, a better quarterback, clearly, than Carter Bradley. He's more accurate, knows the offense, I think fits the system better, but Gus Bradley certainly kind of putting his name, or chiming in some more than he should be in that quarterback room. But yes, I would certainly look into Kyle McCord. One, because Lori Matthews is from Syracuse herself, so shout out Lori Matthews. Lori, it makes the most sense. Get it done. But I also think McCord's better than Kyle Rourke behind him. So, man, I just... You don't think San Francisco should have to play their quarterback 3, but if they do, in which they have had to, I don't ever want to see Carter Bradley out there. I'd rather see Tanner Mordecai be that guy in case of emergency. But, the next couple groups is the tight end room. I think Braden Willis locked up tight end 3 last night, had a big punt recovery, which was nice to see. He's not going to play much, hopefully, but on special teams he will. I think last night he kind of proved his worth for them. Maybe they'll keep 4 guys, but if they don't, I think Braden Willis kind of locked that job down over Jake Tunges last night, which, funny enough, where Willis kind of won his job, Guerendo may have lost his job because he kind of re-injured his shoulder, but still played the game. But let's kind of save Guerendo and the running backs for the end of the show, because let's talk about the wide receiver room. Terique Owens, a big touchdown on the night to end the evening for San Francisco. Good to see there for him. Not enough to make the roster, unfortunately, but a good moment for him. Isaiah Hodgins, I think, is in the running to be one of the practice squad elevations this year. The DeMarcus Robinson, for as bad as the room has been with injuries, I think one of the biggest losses is going to be DeMarcus Robinson to begin the year, especially if Jauan Jennings can't play. I think they tried to thread a needle here and say, well, Jauan will be out there for the beginning of the season, and then Robinson comes back, and Pearsall is there, and we have kind of our Ayuk and these two kind of Jauan Jennings, bigger receiver guys out there, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen at all, so that kind of sucks. But DeMarcus Robinson has been a very big bright spot in the offense. He's played well in it, no matter the quarterback, which makes sense. He played in it with the Rams a couple years ago and even last year, so that was nice to see. I thought Robbie Chosen-Anderson, once again, vying for a roster spot again. I think that Robbie, for as much as I don't know what he gives you, he's really fast. I think in the world in which Jordan Watkins maybe isn't back by week 1, Robbie will be on the roster. 3 catches last night, 24 yards, caught all of his targets. I think he's in a good place to make the roster, at least maybe via the practice squad, but I do think that Robbie Chosen-Anderson will be, in fact, chosen at some point this year, probably early, to be on the game day roster for San Francisco. And then the offensive line, I'm really concerned about the offensive line. Obviously, no starters played last night, so what does that mean? I'm still concerned that even with the starters, there's issues. I don't really trust Ben Barch just by how good he played last year in a short spurt. You love Pooney. You like McKivitz enough. You like Trent, obviously. Brendel is Jake Brendel, which is just okay. It's a pit of frustration, a pit of despair to have Jake Brendel be your center, but we did kind of get a glimpse of what Connor Colby can do which he may in fact, I guess, start week 1 if Ben Barch or Dominic Pooney cannot go. I thought Connor Colby only had one really bad rep, and there's been some issues with, picking up stunts and pass protection and kind of passing things on and off and whatnot, but it was the play in which Bradley fumbled the football, and Drake Nugent and Connor Colby both missed their blocks, but outside of that, I think Colby, I trust him a lot more than Nick Zakelj to be a starting guard for this team, whether it be week 1 or week 12, it doesn't matter. I think Connor Colby is in line to eventually become a starter on the roster. Now, again, that can change quickly. However, I think Colby has grown really fast. He has kind of taken the Dominic Pooney route of falling into a starting job and maybe showing he's more prepared than you thought coming out of college. Pooney got to kind of get a chance because of Feliciano and Burford's injuries last year and never let go of the job. Colby, kind of in that same boat with Pooney and Barch going down, Colby may get a chance to start against the Seahawks week 1, which it's a big test. I think he has been surprisingly better in pass protection than on the ground as a run blocker, but that is his forte. So I have a lot of high hopes for Connor Colby. That said, I thought Drake Nugent was absolutely terrible last night. He had a bad snap, almost led to a fumble, blown assignments. It was not great. I get it. We like Drake Nugent. He's a UDFA. We don't like Brendel, and we're all looking for the replacement for him. No, Drake Nugent was bad last night for San Francisco. He's going to get cut. He will deservingly get cut. I think San Francisco will keep Burford at left tackle behind Trent. They'll keep Austin Pleasance, but even that, you can find a better right tackle somewhere. Someone's going to get cut. Pleasance, I think, can be better than what he's shown, especially playing next to Pooney and Brendel and Trent and those guys. But Nugent's going to get cut. Matt Hennessy, I think, probably makes the roster as the backup center because I tweeted this out during the game, and I think the fan base collectively agrees with me that Drew Moss needs to make the roster. And the only reason why I say that is because he's not making it past waivers. Somebody will pick up Drew Moss, just like the Panthers picked up Jarrett Kingston last year. They may stash him and everything, and all that's fine, but Drew Moss needs to make the roster over Nick Zakelj. Nick Zakelj, how do I say this politely? Nick Zakelj sucks. They cannot run his direction at all. He was whiffing blocks. He wasn't getting in front of linebackers correctly and on time. He wasn't getting his lanes. The entire preseason, this team has not been able to run right at all. At all. That's with Nick Zakelj playing right guard. That's with Colton McKivitz out there, and obviously Pooney certainly is a big upgrade at right guard, but wherever Nick Zakelj is, they cannot run behind him. He's terrible. I know he may be the backup center, and maybe you keep Zakelj because he can play center over Hennessy, and okay, you can justify it that way. But I do not want to see them keep Matt Hennessy and then cut Drew Moss and keep Nick Zakelj. That is just, no. Nick Zakelj is terrible. This team cannot run on whatever side he's playing on. Maybe you can kind of hide him next to Trent Williams, but even then it's not great. Nick Zakelj, I get it. You scouted him for 6 years at Fordham, and you liked him then, and you liked him a lot, and he can grow and be an exciting player. Nobody knew who he was then. Don't you think that maybe there's a reason? Don't you think that maybe there's a reason that nobody knew who Nick Zakelj was? This is not like, oh, Nobody knew who Marquise Siegel was, and now we know he's great. At least he went to Kansas State. Nick Skyy went to freaking Fordham. Who cares? Who cares? You could find better offensive line anywhere than Nick Skyy. And I'm not going to give you this like in-depth breakdown of the PFF score and the tape tells you this. I saw it with my own eyes. He was not getting in front of blockers. He was not getting to the second level last night. There are guys on the roster like Drew Moss, like Connor Colby that may not be great now, but certainly have a higher ceiling right now than Nick Skyy. He's got to go. It doesn't work. You can find other guards. I know Shanahan has a type. He has a type. I get it. But Nick Skyy isn't good in this offense, and he's not good in other ones either. This is an offense made for Nick Skyy, and he's not good at it. And look, I'm not saying there wasn't other struggles last night too. Hennessy wasn't great. Nugent wasn't great. Even Colby, for all the good things he did, had a few blunders last night too. But Nick Skyy is really bad and should not make the roster. Should not make the roster. If you believe in Jake Brendel like San Francisco does, and you believe in Dominic Pooney and Ben Barch, Drew Moss, again, there was some issues, but overall, Drew Moss has been more consistent. I think Drew Moss, to me, is a much better player than Nick Skyy. I will bring up the PFF scores last night because I see somebody out there asking for them. I will bring them up here for you. Let's see here. 2025, Drew Moss, not great. That's pass blocking. Don't want that. They don't seem to have it up there. That's not ideal. Let's go to the game stuff last night. Let's see here. Niners, Chargers. Let's see. Pass blocking last night. Michael Dunn was pretty good. He was actually a really nice game for Michael Dunn via the pass blocking game. But Drake Nugent, a 17.5 pass blocking grade. Somehow Nick Skyy got a 64.4 pass blocking grade, but here's the kicker. A 48.6 PFF true pass set grade. That's what you have to look for at times. But Connor Colby, Austin Pleasance, tremendous in the running game last night. Drew Moss, get this. Drew Moss, a 65.7 grade in run blocking. Nick Skyy, 50.7. This team is going to want to run the football a ton to begin the year because they don't have the wide receivers to pass the football. And you want to trot out there Nick Skyy, who, for what it's worth, PFF isn't always perfect, but 40 grade? Really? Even if your guys struggle in pass protection, like Connor Colby has at times, like Drew Moss does, I'd rather you be able to execute the wide zone, inside zone running scheme than be able to have an amazing true pass set grade. And the Seahawks defense is better than the Chargers backups by far. Nick Skyy has to go. Has to go. Keep Drew Moss, keep Connor Colby, and let those two young guards be your backups alongside Burford and Pleasance, and maybe even find a new right tackle other than Pleasance, which Pleasance wasn't bad last night, but it just, not great. This team is going to want to run the football. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have Isaac Guerendo, who was really bad last night, but then you just went and traded for Brian Robinson because you want to run the football in the absence of your receivers. And look, these are backups for a reason, but if anything, I want my backups to be able to run the football. That's what you got to do in Shanahan's offense, and these are young guys whose bodies aren't built yet for the NFL. They're out of college. So I do think that San Francisco really should keep Drew Moss over Nick Skyy. But again, you got a guy for 6 years and you have ties to him. They're pretty stubborn, so he'll probably be back in 2025. And the 49ers 2025 says I'm forgetting Michael Dunn and Isaac Guerendo. Dunn is interesting. I'm not sure if there's maybe Dunn makes the roster, but I'm not really sure they do because he was signed so late and he's kind of just brought in to be a depth piece to get through last night's game and hopefully tomorrow's practice, but maybe Dunn makes the roster. I just don't have high hopes for that. Larson's interesting. I don't know if he can play right tackle, and Burford's already at left tackle, so I think that kind of eliminates that odds as well. Lori Matthews asks in the YouTube chat, okay, Sterling, which one do you want gone more? Nick Zakelj or Jake Moody? Wow. That's a tough one because they both should go. I would rather trade. You ain't trading anybody. I'd rather cut Jake Moody and bring back Greg Joseph simply because he will have a bigger impact on the game than Nick Zakelj. Jake will cost you more games than Nick Zakelj will if he's asked to play. So goodbye to Jake Moody. And Joseph Ehrenberg asks here in the YouTube chat, do the Niners make any more trades? It's a good question. I don't know if anybody else they are going to cut. Like, say, Brian Robinson, for example, Washington or Skyy Moore. Like, both the guys they got are probably going to get cut by the other teams. I don't know if San Francisco has one of those players on the roster currently. Yeah, I don't think they do unless they are acquiring somebody else. In that case, maybe it's a receiver, but that room is stacked. And without knowing exactly how they want to kind of construct that room with veterans and other guys and young players.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Maybe Jauan Jennings gets traded, but I don't see it happening either. But that seems to be coming to a head pretty soon. Like, they have about a week and a half to get things done, or he's not going to play. So maybe if somebody gets traded, my guess would be Jauan Jennings, but I don't see that happening either, so probably no. Let's see if there's any more comments in the YouTube chat to respond to. Big Brick 84 says, being devil's advocate here, no guarantee that Joseph will be better than Jake Moody. 100% right. But it's worth the chance to see because Jake Moody sucks and I don't want to sit through that ever again. But let's end things with the running back room because that to me is where a lot of the focus is at right now. The Niners acquired Brian Robinson from the Commanders, and my assumption was Robinson would then become the RB3 behind Guerendo and Christian McCaffrey. Shanahan nipped that in the bud last night and said, nope. Robinson is the RB2. And I think right now, Isaac Guerendo's stock may, at least at this point in time, has never been lower. He has the speed. He has the hands. He has the physical tools you love, but he's always injured. And while it's unfair to grade a running back behind a non-starting offensive line because those guys will likely open up more holes for those players, Jeff Wilson Jr. didn't really have a problem finding a hole on the offense. Guerendo's vision is really bad. And I know last night was his first preseason game back. I know that maybe you want to give him some grace in his first game back and go, okay, like he's being eased back into things. I can get behind that. I think Guerendo is much more suited as a wide receiver / running back as the pass catching guy. I tell you what, you put Guerendo in Philadelphia, and let's say they didn't have Saquon Barkley, he'd be a darn good running back behind that offensive line. But more importantly, he'd be utilized as a pass catcher more so. And to me, Guerendo in open space, in the flats, on screens, on whip routes, that is a way to utilize his skill set in a big way. Get him in open space, utilize that 4.3 speed, let him make guys miss. He can do that. But in the tackles, the vision being poor, he's not somebody that's going to slip through a crack and be gone, right? You have to get him in space. And last night, to his credit, there wasn't much space to maneuver, but to kind of his discredit, he wasn't making his job any easier. He has somewhat been relegated to the special teams group, that he may be the kick returner to begin the year alongside Skyy Moore. I can certainly see that because you do want to utilize his speed in any way you can, but he was a gunner last night and he got hurt again. So his stock has never been lower. I do think they can utilize him in ways, again, to help him contribute to the offense, but hearing Shanahan say, Robinson's the RB2, we like him a lot, loved him since college, and happy we got him. Like, that to me kind of condemns Guerendo to be the RB3 this year, and you hope that he can stay healthy. I think Guerendo can offer a lot to the team, but his stock has never been lower. It was a really rough night for him, and getting Jordan James back, there's a real chance that Guerendo is the RB4 by the end of the year. Different skill set than Jordan James and Brian Robinson, but it does seem like Guerendo's career is heading towards a crossroads. But right now, and I was just going to say this, Clee Young, I trust Jeff Wilson Jr. over Guerendo, at least as a runner. And if you're a running back, that's what you're going to do most of the time. I thought Jeff Wilson Jr. has walked in and been tremendous. He's older, but he looks thinner. He looks stronger. I don't think he'll take Guerendo's spot on the roster, but I do think as a primary practice squad elevation, that to me is a really good shot for Wilson to be on the roster at some point in some way this year. But I have them carrying McCaffrey as the 1, obviously, Robinson as the 2, Guerendo as the 3, and with Jordan James supposed to be back by this week, if not next week, prior to week 1, those are probably going to be your 4 running backs, and then Jeff Wilson Jr. becomes the practice squad guy that you hopefully can find a spot for in some way. But a really bad day for Isaac Guerendo. There wasn't many lanes to run through, but still, just not a great day for him. The vision has been a major problem for him. It was last year too, mind you. It does seem like he's too eager to get into his cuts. There's no patience to get through to his cuts and wait for holes to open up. But I do think that last night it was like you're running into a brick wall every single time, and that goes both ways. The offensive line not doing great, but also Guerendo. I don't know if he needs more time or it's rust, or maybe this is who he is, and Shanahan, being the genius that he is, needs to find a way to utilize his speed in a better way, which kick returns. As a pass catcher, Guerendo can help you out. Last year, his best highlights came as a receiver. He is a natural receiver. You can use him in that way. And if you're not going to have Ayuk and Jennings and Robinson and Cowing and Watkins, and you're going to have to utilize Pearsall and Gage and Chosen Anderson and Hodgins, whoever else, Guerendo and McCaffrey can become weapons as pass catchers for you to help alleviate the pressure of not having some of your top receivers. So it's a lot to kind of adjust and change. I think Guerendo's future is still bright, but a very, very bad performance last night may have kind of condemned him to the running back 3 job, or it seems like special teams this year in the time being. But happy to have Brian Robinson here. 8 touchdowns last year, 700 plus yards the last 2 seasons. An underrated pass catcher. That deal is official as we speak. So Brian Robinson is now officially a San Francisco 49ers. So they are loaded to me at the running back spot, barring some issues they had last night with Guerendo. But they have 5 guys, I believe, can be really good back there for Kyle Shanahan, but that has to come to fruition. And now we're here, folks. The preseason is in the past. They practice tomorrow. Cut down day is on Tuesday. And although the quote-unquote 53-man roster is never the final 53-man roster, we're going to see roughly 45 guys we can say those are going to be San Francisco 49ers this year. Stay tuned tomorrow because my final 53-man roster prediction will come out on this channel. But I do want to answer Joseph Ehrenberg's question right here. More of a long view question. Thank you for the super chat, Joseph. I really appreciate you out here with $1.99. He asks, if we have a 15-12 season, is it fire sale time? You're not going to trade guys like Purdy and Warner and Kittle and Bosa, or Trent unless he retires, but maybe you have no more Kyle Juszczyk, which kind of got cut last year. But it does seem like that in that case, you are moving off of Ji'Ayir Brown, maybe Guerendo, rehauling the entire offensive line. I think Jake Brendel becomes more cuttable next year, so that's an option. Maybe you don't bring back Colton McKivitz. It's not about fire sale. It's about overhauling the roster, which can be done. Hence why they're 1, saving money, but also 2, kind of trying to hoard draft picks. Jesus. I know they have traded some away, but they're going to get comp picks for Brian Robinson probably and other guys. So I would expect 10 more draft picks this year heading San Francisco's way via compensation picks. But I wouldn't say fire sale. I would say just a complete overhaul of the offensive line outside of, say, Trent, unless he retires, and or Dominic Pooney. McKivitz is a free agent. Brendel you can cut, I believe, after this year. Then Ben Barch is kind of a whatever in there. So there is ways to set themselves up for more success after another bad season. But if they go 5-12, we aren't talking just fire sale, unless someone serious gets hurt like Purdy or McCaffrey. But we're talking about Shanahan and Lynch being fired. Those are the conversations that really heat up then. But that's a long ways away. Hopefully it is a future we don't live in. I think San Francisco can win 10 games this year and make the playoffs, but, we'll have to see how the season progresses. Week 1 is 2 weeks away. We're almost there, so stay tuned for plenty of content coming your way. I'll have my roster predictions out tomorrow. I will have my season predictions out for the entire NFL going forward, and hopefully one of my favorite things I do, a quarterback ranking tier list headed your way before week 1 of the NFL season. So stay tuned for that. We will react to roster cut down day on top of the rest of the content heading your way in the next 2 weeks. And then next week, previewing week 1, Niners, Seahawks. Football is nearly back. It almost matters again. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. I would list all of you out here, but thank you so much to every single person in the YouTube chat. I really appreciate every single one of you. You guys make this show happen. Hopefully you guys can leave us a review on the audio podcasting platforms as well, and follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram, 49ers_access is the X or Twitter, and use the promo code 49ersaccess at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. The preseason is done. Lock it up and throw it away, and let's put it in the rear view mirror, because football that actually matters is right around the corner. I have a fantasy football draft tonight I have to get to, so thank you to every single person here. Like, share, subscribe, leave us that review, and until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, Enjoy your Sunday and your Monday morning. And until next time, stay faithful.
Popsicles, sprinklers, a cool breeze. Talk about refreshing. You know what else is refreshing this summer? A brand new phone with Verizon. Yep, get a new phone on any plan with Select Phone Trade-in and My Plan. And lock down a low price for 3 years on any plan with My Plan. This is a deal for everyone, whether you're a new or existing customer. Swing by Verizon today for our best phone deals. 3-year price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate only. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
Mamá, papá, mi cuerpo crece a un ritmo alarmante y la ropa que me compren ahora me quedará muy pequeña muy pronto. Pero su billetera no tiene que sufrir por la moda con los precios bajos de la vuelta a clases de Amazon. Amazon, gasta menos, sonríe más.